I never knew nothing about human trafficking. I never knew that I was being exploited. I never knew. I didn't wake up and be like, oh, this is what's happening to me. It's something that I thought was normal.
80,000 reported missing people on any given day in the United States. At the same time, there are over 10,000 unidentified bodies. There is no national law requiring agencies to share this information, leaving many families in the dark about their loved one's fate.
Today, family and volunteers, they reported cadaver dogs detected a few locations where human remains might have been buried.
You could have a body that was on one side of a county line, and the next county could have had that individual reported as missing, and no one may have talked to each other.
And we just haven't forgotten, and we're not going to stop until we know what happened.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Gone Missing pod. My name is Nicole Mancha Mercado, and I am joined by the lovely Alyssa Gutierrez.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
Let's see. What are we? We are almost into August, and God, July just disappeared.
It disappeared. My mother-in-law literally just said, she goes, summer's over. I'm like, well, it's not over. And she's like, no, it's over. July's gone.
You know, I'd have to agree with her. She has an excellent point. I just feel like, okay, it's all downhill from here now, right? You know?
Although I do love fall. Like, I really genuinely love fall and like being outside during that time. But I do feel like it so abruptly turns to winter, and I'm never mentally prepared for that.
I disagree with you. I think winter comes in January, for real.
It feels like it happens so fast, though. From fall to winter, it feels like fall is always a blink of an eye. And then I'm like, damn, it's been 20 below. My face is freezing off.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, work just took over summer. I would say like June was excellent. I soaked up as much sun as possible. But work stress and family stress has prevented me from getting to the beach, unfortunately.
No, I feel that. We had some like weird, like crazy stuff happen at the house. And then Mowgli, we thought ate a raisin, so he had to get rushed to the emergency vet. Turned out he did not eat a raisin, but it was
poor boy.
And then Pepper had blood work done, and it like ended up being that the blood work, like the machine that they used, incorrectly read her results.
Oh, great. So she is okay.
So she's 100% fine. They apologized profusely. They
obviously like didn't charge unnecessary stress.
Exactly. They did not charge us for like redo, because they had them both come back in just to be sure.
Right.
And they were like, we're not charging you. Like, we just want to make sure the dogs are okay.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness it was a fluke.
Oh my gosh. I was so relieved. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I still want to go in there and talk to them about a few different things, like from the bill, because obviously we all had to pay for things when we thought she was sick. So I just want to get like some of that stuff sorted. But I am so relieved. And I was telling Mike, I was like, wow, I'm like, I feel like Alyssa and I like haven't hung out. And I'm like, oh my God, we haven't hung out. I don't think I've seen you like the entire month of July.
Yeah, we had sushi last in June. But it was towards the end of June.
It was towards the end of June, but we're at the end of July.
Yeah, like I said, this overtime life. I mean, I'm working 6 days a week, and I'm just not a ray of sunshine at all.
And that was the thing. And I was telling him, because I'm like, honestly, she's like working crazy hours. So by the time she gets home, she basically has to go back to bed.
Right? Basic needs, bathe, food. That's about it. You know, exactly. Coco, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes Coco does not get a walk, and I feel very guilty, but I'm like, come on, we're gonna take a nap.
Right?
Then we are going to go to bed.
Exactly. It's like you can go out and pee, and then we're going back to sleep. Thank you. So great to be here. All right. Well, we are going to get into a case today that was actually sent to us by someone who listens to the podcast, and I can't find the message, like the original message right now, but she had sent it to us and said, you know, this girl has not really had the coverage that she deserved, and I thought that this might be, you know, some information you guys could go over. So I'm so sorry that I can't find your message right now, but I really appreciate you sending this to us, because it is such a strange case, and we'll get into it a little bit, but it is probably It's bizarre in a different kind of way than what we've normally covered. So why don't we get into Alexis Ware? On January 30th, 2022, so this year,
Oh, wow. Very
I
recent.
know, makeup artist and hairstylist Alexis Ware arrived with her two kids. They are 9 and 2 to a local gas station in Anderson, South Carolina, off of Highway 29. So she is there to drop off her two kids with her ex. It sounds like he was her ex from like what they were saying, but it was a little confusing because it says that she met there with her son's father. So her older child is a little girl, and then I believe her younger one is a little boy, but she dropped both of the kids off in his car. They're like separating, you know what I mean? Like she's dropping him off in the car, and then he was supposed to go to the family, like a member of the family's home, and she was going to go there as well. So she was going to go to his mother's house. So I'm not sure why she wanted them to go in his car unless they were doing something afterwards. It's not super clear, but it just says that she met him there so that they could kind of, get the kids situated in his car, and then they were leaving. So maybe she had to go to work or something else had been planned later on that night where the kids needed to have their stuff in his car, which like makes sense to me if they weren't necessarily together at the time, right? Like making sure that, okay, do you have their backpacks and this and that? You know what I'm saying? He said that they were both supposed to go to his mom's house, but all of a sudden, Alexis had been following him, then sped around his car, took off in front of him, and just, what is it, pedal to the metal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like took off.
That's odd.
It was so strange because this isn't something like, this is just so random. Like she's a 29-year-old woman who is supposed to go to this family member's house, like TJ's mom's house. She clearly still has like a good relationship with him and his family, even if they're not together. And like I said, it's my assumption they're not together because that's what would make sense to me if they're like meeting up in like a neutral place, like the gas station, and like
Right.
trading the kids off. But
It
maybe they
sounds
were
like
still together.
co-parenting,
Yeah,
but
it's
that's
if
fine.
nothing else, co-parenting together or not, they're co-parenting and they're doing a really good job about it,
Mm-hmm.
And then they're supposed to go meet up, and she just takes off. Now, obviously, the first thing that law enforcement typically does is assume, that the most recent like significant other had something to do with it. But this interaction was actually captured in footage by that 7-Eleven gas station. They actually saw her put the kids in the car and then take off. TJ was also actually the person to call Alexis's mother, Alberta, asking her if she had seen her daughter after she sped off and not met up with him.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So he's concerned because he's like, wait, we had a plan. Like, what's going on? And I believe from some of the information that I had read, he did try to call her and she didn't answer. So he figured, well, I'm going to call her mom, And so Alberta said she tried to contact her daughter, but was unable to get in touch with her. She said, quote, she would never go this long without her kids. She always had her kids with her. She's always calling me all day long. And it's be unusual if we went 2 days without talking. So it's very strange for her to not have that like regular communication. And so when this whole situation happened and all these people are calling her and nobody is like she's not answering anybody, everyone's very concerned.
Okay, so he has the kids,
Yes.
right? And then they were supposed to go together, but then she drove away.
Yeah. Well, she was following him for like a very short period of time, like at least to get out of the gas station. And then all of a sudden literally sped up, went around his car and took off.
That seems very odd. Like, what could have triggered her in such a short amount of time, unless there was something before, that had happened and she didn't say anything about it. But he didn't describe her behavior as
erratic
odd until she sped away.
Correct. So, and we'll get into a little bit more of that later, but like at this moment in this time period, it doesn't seem like at this exact moment that she's having any sort of erratic behavior or anything of that nature. Alexis has a younger half brother named Travis, and he actually told Dateline, because they had a story about Alexis, that he was worried because she was always kind and supportive and just wants to help people. And she was like just the best big sister, and she was so supportive of him and his career.
That's such a nice account. I love when the family is able to speak and were able to share that information.
Exactly. So 2 days they were unable to reach her, and her family decided to file a missing persons report. Now, they don't say why it took 2 days, but as we know, there's a lot of false information that goes around about missing persons, and most people say that you have to wait 48 hours when you do not. If you think a person, if there's like anything that you just think is off, but a lot of times people wait that 48 hours, you know what I mean, before you can file the report. And she is also a grown woman. She is 29 years old. She is able to make the decision to leave if she wants to.
Well, right. And she was seen leaving of her own accord.
Volition. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets even more bizarre. So several days later, her red Honda Accord was found in a city about 50 miles away from her home.
Oh my goodness.
Travis said that she didn't have any family or friends in the area, and there's really nothing that connected her to this town. So he felt that there was no reason for her to be there. And the even stranger thing is that if she left of her own volition and she just wanted to get out for whatever reason, everything that she had with her on her person that day, so her personal belongings, were all left in the car.
I feel like this is something out of a movie almost,
Yeah,
where you're being threatened on the phone and it's like, I'm watching you, get rid of your kids now, drive off. And then, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it feels
caused her to do that?
Right, because it's such a bizarre interaction, you know what I mean? Like, everything is fine, kids are in the car, and then I just take off, even though we've already had this discussion that we're going here at the same time. Like, it's just very, very odd. So they did talk a little bit, though, that she did have some strange interactions prior to her disappearance, mentioning that she wouldn't see her 30th birthday, which was actually only a few weeks away. And then she posted some really strange posts on Facebook, and they did get removed, but they just were very ominous. And her mother said that they had several conversations which seemed really bizarre and strange, and she wasn't looking forward to her birthday, which she said was very weird because she was the type of girl who wanted to get ready and wanted to, you know what I mean? Like, her birthday was a big deal. And for her to be dreading it so much, it just seemed really, really strange.
And none of her family had noticed any, I don't know, depression or change in.
They don't. Yeah, they don't really say. The whole situation is bizarre. However, her mom did mention that there was one item found outside of her car, which was her bonnet, which was covered in mud. And she felt like that was insinuating there was some sort of scuffle, because your bonnet, even for people who aren't super familiar with them, they do have the elastic that's around the inside. So it's not just falling off your head.
Right.
It does have to be pulled off when you are ready to go out. So in my opinion, yeah, it sounds like it got pulled off somehow, whether she pulled it off herself or someone else pulled it off of her. It doesn't feel like a natural thing for you to just drop and leave behind.
See, again, I'm just picturing some,
I know
drama. It's like, who is threatening her? This invisible person, caused her to go out somewhere where then she was taken.
Yeah,
very odd.
It's odd. So on February 9th, 2022, the McCormick County Sheriff's Office posted a statement saying that they searched the area surrounding the car, and they also joined 10 other agencies to execute a grid search of 222 acres of land near where the vehicle was discovered. And unfortunately, despite the help of 35 law enforcement personnel and K-9 teams, as well as air support via helicopter, they found no trace of Alexis, which in 2022, I find so freaking bizarre.
Very, extremely. I mean,
we have so much technology.
I want to know, why don't they have access to her phone records, her GPS?
Well, she left everything. Everything was there. All of her personal belongings were in the car.
Right. But can't they look who was calling? Who was she in contact with?
I'm sure they could. I don't know.
Leading up to this event.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're going to release that just
right. It is very
is a very early case still compared to a lot of the ones that we look at that are 10, 15, 20 years old. Like this was in January, so maybe they do have some leads, but it's very, very strange. So it did say that they were able to kind of figure out that her car apparently traveled to Augusta, Georgia during that time. So her father commented, or her stepfather commented, Augusta, Georgia back to McCormick is 30 miles. The vehicle traveled at least an hour from Anderson to travel to Georgia and then ended up in a hunting field in McCormick. All of that is a rural area. And when I say rural areas, I say it's basically recreational hunting, which I don't know why, but that just gave me like such nasty goosebumps.
Yeah, especially because we don't know what caused it. Like my gut tells me there's a threat.
Oh,
somewhere,
100%.
with somebody threatening her children. And that's why she complied. To be honest, that's the only thing I could think of that would make, a mother
Yeah.
do this.
Well, and what's weird to me is they bring out the K9 teams. And so, but the other question is, was she taken before going there? Because it says that the car traveled an hour.
Right.
So if she went
That
back
doesn't
to where
necessarily
her
mean
home was,
she was there.
right. It just means that the car was dumped there. But if it was dumped there and they did bring her there, did they have another car waiting? Because the K9 teams could not sense her, like could not find anything, like any tracks for her in the area.
Right. And then there might have been tracks for a second vehicle. I don't know. Maybe not.
It's strange. So the Anderson County Sheriff had informed that they had requested assistance from the FBI as of Wednesday, March 2nd. The other thing that I think it's important to point out, and I was actually able to find a YouTube video about her case, and it was called Where is Alexis Ware? TSR Investigates. But her brother said she was like really growing her following on Instagram, and she has thousands of followers. So it was like social media was very important to her. She was very active on it. She posted often. What's creepier though to me, and this is just like it's creepy in a way because it's just that kind of like what I always call it, like rubbernecking on the on the highway. Everyone wants to stare and see what's going on. But when this story like was released, TSR Investigates, they mentioned how she has like 22,000 followers. I went to go see her page because obviously you and I like to see like who we're talking about and see who these people are. I think she had like 35,000.
Wow.
So since she went missing, she grew all these followers. And that to me is it's like a bit squidgy, you know?
I mean, she could be being trafficked.
Yeah, she absolutely could.
It just something made her go into that situation.
Yeah. Well, and her brother had he had said something that I thought was kind of interesting in the sense of like, it does make you stop and think. And I apologize. She has like 29,000 followers and she went from like 22 to 29, but still that's a big jump when she was already missing. So she was no longer posting. So it is people kind of, I think, trying to see what's going on. And sometimes I do have a bit of an issue with that sometimes because it feels kind of, I don't know,
I guess.
I don't know, like just following someone because they're a missing person.
I don't know.
I don't know. Something about it was kind of just made me a little uncomfortable. Like everyone trying to see what's going on when this family is in pain and going through all of this,
Just to know. I mean, should we go by the old adage, no publicity is bad publicity?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean? maybe. But I guess it's like, I don't know. I guess my wonder is always out of 7,000 people that she may have like gained during this time in a following, how many are positive people and how many are just like negative people? You know what I mean?
We have no idea. I mean,
and maybe that's what it is.
Social media wormhole.
Exactly. Maybe that's what's kind of weirding me out. But her brother made a good point is he's like, she puts her life on the internet and like, obviously she's like trying to grow her following. And she was like very well known as like a hairstylist and makeup artist, super, super fucking talented. And he had a concern of like, is her social media the reason people were able to find her, or someone was able to do something to her?
Well, very possible. I mean, that's again, it just seems very, I've only ever heard of somebody being blackmailed or, threatened in, a fiction sense.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean it's not possible. It doesn't
for
mean it
sure.
doesn't actually happen. I don't actually hear of those stories in real life, but I'm also not looking for them. So,
Right. So her case, like I said, I just thought it was so strange, and it took a turn in the sense of like, in general, we've never really covered anyone with this type of social media following. And I thought that was a really interesting kind of aspect that her brother brought up, is like, how public are you making yourself? And it's not like, never victim shaming, this is not her fault at all, but it's like, when you make yourself public, are you putting yourself in danger even if you don't mean to? Because
oh,
there are
100%.
horrible people in the world, and now they have access to you and access to who you are and things about you that maybe they wouldn't know otherwise. And it's just like, again, we will never blame the victim, never shame the victim. But I think it is something that's kind of that aspect to bring up of like, we are just so used to everything being on social media that sometimes I think we forget how accessible it makes us to people.
I think that. You 100% know that because you're, Mrs. Inspector Gadget over there. You can find information. I don't know, like even though we grew up with MySpace and Facebook, as I've aged, and even when I was in my 20s, I didn't have a lot on there. Like,
Yeah.
I would post photos a lot on Facebook, and part of me was like, there's a lot of information that can be gleaned,
Yeah,
from photos.
absolutely. People's
And
names, friends' names, like, yeah.
well, you post multiple pictures at the same, bar,
Or
same
my morning
restaurant.
run.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult to figure out what things about people, even when they're not putting everything out there.
Yeah.
So that is a risk always. I think we're all kind of vulnerable.
It's super interesting because, like, obviously, Alyssa and I are not big. We don't post a ton. And usually, if we do, it's of our dogs. But I don't know about your account, but my accounts are private. It's only people that I know, like for my Instagram and things like that. And it was interesting because I'm not going to say her name, but someone who follows the podcast on Instagram found me and my
Oh, and
personal
friended
one
you.
and tried
Okay.
to friend me. And I'm like, nothing personal. I don't know you. And it's one thing on our social media platforms because of what we're trying to promote. And we want people to know about, all the different individuals that we talk about that have gone missing. But my private life has nothing to do with that. And it's just like, I was like, oh no. And it's like and I think part of it was because I've done this case now, and because we talked to, like we've now talked about Alexis, but even thinking about what her brother said is, I'm like, yeah, I just like to keep some of my things private. Even if it's not that big of a deal, it's like, yeah, but it's my personal life.
Right.
Alexis was last seen wearing a black bonnet, a black jacket with a purple shirt, and blue jeans and black Crocs. Her mother said that she has multiple tattoos. Some of them are more recognizable, like a leaf-like feather on the front of one hand and a rose on the other. She also has dimple piercings and long black hair and brown eyes. She is 5'6" and around 215 pounds. If anyone has information on Alexis, you can call the Anderson County Sheriff's Office at 864-260-4405, and her case number is 2022-01369. Or you can call Crime Stoppers at 1-888-CRIME-SC. That's 1-888-CRIME-SC. Her case is still very fresh comparative to a lot of the cases we've covered. It happened in January of this year, and her family is still like searching for her, actively looking for her. Her brother, I believe, is in radio and media, and he has mentioned her on, like in his own platforms. And so if anyone has information, please, please, please give one of those resources a call so her family can get some answers.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole, for bringing up Alexis's case today. I do hope with the FBI having gotten involved back in March, maybe a few months from now, we'll get a couple update articles.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they're able to provide some more investigative tools that maybe local law enforcement doesn't have, because Anderson, I don't know, it doesn't sound like a super large, city.
Right.
So the places that I got my information from was Fox News, Where is Alexis Ware, TSR Investigates, as well as NBC News, Dateline, and News Nation Now. Thank you so much, Alyssa, for joining me, talking about Alexis and just trying to get her name out there, get more information about her out there, because there's just so much we don't know, and so many questions that her family has as well, and they deserve to get answers. Thank you everyone for listening today. We are so appreciative of this community. We want to say thank you to the Mercado Airwaves Network for hosting us each and every week, as well as our wonderful editor and producer, Mike Mercado. And thank you, Alyssa, for being the best co-host a girl could ask for.
Right back at ya.
Thank you guys. You are amazing. If you want to reach out to us or check out any of our cases, you can go to Instagram and Twitter at The Gone Missing Pod or Facebook at The Gone Missing Podcast. You can also become a patron and support us on patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves Network and go to The Gone Missing Pod. We appreciate it all. Thank you guys so much. We will check in with you next week.